and Smetty here.
I need to stop doing this. I am so disrespectful.
Welcome to another edition of Golic and Smetty. I am Mike Golic Sr. She is Jess Smetana. And this is a special broadcast for us. We're going to talk about the NCAA title games, both the men's and the women's. And right off the bat, Jess, we're going to talk to one of the great basketball players in UConn history and then the WNBA. She's in the Basketball Hall of Fame, the Women's Basketball Hall of Fame. But I know her best for paying off all kind of bets when UConn would beat Notre Dame when we were working together at ESPN. Jess, Rebecca Lobo had a fun call. I'm sure. Real quickly, your thoughts on that game Sunday with Iowa and with LSU.
It was amazing. It was amazing. The play on the court exceeded, I think, everybody's expectations. You know, for both teams to finish the game shooting at least 50% from the field. For LSU, a team who averaged 5 made threes per game on the season to make 9 in the first half. It was a great exhibition of women's basketball because anybody who tuned in saw, wow, these women can really, really play. They can shoot the ball. They can pass the ball. And the crowds were unbelievable in the arena around the city of Dallas. And, of course, our ratings were sky high. But what always warms my heart is when we get a lot of eyeballs on the product and the product delivered. And it certainly did in the entire Final Four, but especially in that championship game.
When Jasmine Carson came off the bench and hit those threes, have you ever seen anything like that in the first half of a national championship game before?
No, for a couple of reasons. First, for a player to come in off the bench and be that productive. In particular, for Jasmine Carson to do it because she'd had multiple scoreless games in the tournament. This was an LSU team that was not shooting the three ball well in the tournament. And Jasmine Carson was a player who was not scoring much in the tournament. For her to come in that moment and shoot like that, especially considering how her offensive numbers had been down a little bit, it was just incredible.
She had, to put it into context, I believe she had 11 points total in the tournament leading into that game. And when she banked in that three at the end of the half, I mean, you got to be thinking, boy, it's your night. She had 22 points, 21 in the first half. Alexis Morris had 19 in the second half. We'll get to the Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark stuff, but I do not want that to start this. What should start is this game because of what it meant. And unfortunately, maybe the officiating in the game. But first, of the three of us, you're the only one who's also won a national championship in '95 with UConn. So let's go there first. For the 99% of people that will have never won a national championship, tell us what those LSU women were feeling when the clock hit zero.
Well, what's interesting, Mike, is that the euphoria that you're feeling in the moment is one thing, and especially when you do it on a really close-knit team, because that's the beauty of sports. There's nothing like accomplishing something with a group of people who you've been through the trenches with. Especially for me, it was my senior year. Most of the contributors on our team were upperclassmen. We'd been through it. We'd been through the failures. We'd been through the hard practices. And so to get to that moment and to share it with all of the people who had been through it with you is incredible. Now, when I look back, I also realize how it completely changed my life. And that was the thing going in for both of these teams. Neither LSU nor Iowa had ever played in a championship game. Therefore, neither of those programs or those schools had ever won a national championship in women's basketball. And so these women, you know, they're in the midst of it right now, but they don't understand yet, and nor can they for a lot of years, how this is going to change their life. Like forever, there's going to be 5-year, 10-year, 15-year anniversaries of the first ever championship team from those schools. Things are just going to be different from here on out for those young women. And so now when I call games, like I know what it felt like in the moment, but I also have the perspective and wisdom that comes with age and understand the bigger picture too, and how things will be completely different for these women down the road because of what they accomplished this past weekend in Dallas.
So it seemed like throughout the season, LSU believed that LSU would be competing for a national championship, but maybe we didn't talk about them enough in the national media, especially when they played South Carolina midway through the season and lost by a fair margin. So yeah. Would you say the media was surprised that they won, and the fans maybe, but the LSU players were not surprised at all?
I think it would depend on like the media, you know. we in women's basketball knew that they were a pretty good team, but we didn't know how good they were because they didn't play a great strength of schedule. And Kim Mulkey will admit she made the schedule because you have to, whether it's a year or two in advance. She didn't know she was getting all the transfers that she got. She didn't know she was going to have a stacked team. So she made a roster or made a schedule that fit what she thought was going to be a young and inexperienced roster. So that's kind of where the questions came in, is how good is this team? They haven't really played a ranked team. And then when they did at South Carolina, they didn't have one of their best performances. So I think people thought they were decent, but didn't necessarily think they were in the national championship conversation. But yeah, LSU, Kim Mulkey, number one, is never a person who shies away from anything. And it never has been a woman who lacks in confidence. And I think that's one of the reasons certain players are drawn to play for her. And Angel Reese certainly is one of those. Alexis Morris is another. Flau'jae Johnson, the freshman. These are young women who need a certain kind of swagger from their coach. And that team, at least even after they lost to South Carolina, it didn't feel like they wavered in any way in terms of their belief in themselves.
The Alexis Morris story is incredible. Played with Kim at Baylor, got kicked off the team as a freshman. I think it was Rutgers and then Texas A&M before Kim brought her back to LSU. Alexis was fantastic on the set after talking about when she was asked, what would you tell young women? I thought it was a phenomenal answer. And Kim Mulkey now with her fourth title. So in this game, though, Rebecca, well, I thought the officiating was horrible. You and Ryan Ruocco did a great job calling it. And you never want it to take away from the game. But also, so let's forget what we thought as we were watching, and now you're a player. It doesn't matter if they're calling it bad or not. You have to deal with it. So you now have to, how much do you have to adjust your game to how the officials are calling this game?
Completely, especially when you're a post player. So just by the nature of a post, there's going to be contact in your position. And especially for Angel Reese, who got her second foul in the first half of that game. And she's such a prolific offensive rebounder. And that takes getting to the glass, and there's going to be contact. And that's why Kim Mulkey had to take her out. She could not risk having her post player in there to pick up a third. It was slightly different with Caitlin Clark because the nature of her point guard position doesn't necessitate as much contact where you can put it in the hands of the officials. But what it did do is it made her less of a threat off of dribble penetration. You know, the thing that makes her, many things make her really good, one of them being the deep bomb threes. And then when you get up on her, her ability to penetrate by and find teammates or finish. Well, you have to be really careful if you're driving into the lane. So that changed things a little bit. The last thing that we want to do when we're calling a big sporting event that has a lot of eyeballs on it, that's incredible play on the floor, is talk about the officiating. We do everything we can to avoid talking about the officiating. And in that game, we couldn't avoid it because of some of the calls that were being made. That being said, LSU went out and took that basketball game. I don't think that any other officiating would have in any way impacted the outcome of that game. LSU went out and made 9 threes in the first half and took that basketball game. What was frustrating was this is our biggest showcase, and our biggest stars in this moment are in foul trouble and either on the bench or not allowed to play the way they would typically play. And that was unfortunate.
You already talked about the entire Final Four weekend being really fun and exciting. What were some of the things that you experienced while in Dallas this weekend that you loved, things that were different from last year, just like the overall experience? What was it like?
One of the coolest things that they did, and I think it's the first time they've ever done it, it's at least the first time that I've ever seen it, was the teams got dropped off in front of the arena, and they had a red carpet that went from where the teams got dropped off into the arena. And fans could just line both sides of it. And that's where our pregame studio set was. And I don't know how many, a couple thousand fans easily for each team. So LSU got out first, and this red carpet is just lined with all the fans. There's these little kids who are reaching out or getting high fives from the players and the coaches. And so the players and the teams are just experiencing this appreciation from their fan base as they walk in, and the fans are getting to actually touch the players before, one of the biggest moments of their lives. It was really cool. The energy in Dallas, I think, was reflected in the rating, across the country of people watching. There was a different level of excitement and juice that we felt like, wow, this is a really big deal, a game that people are really interested in with stars that are ready to shine. And that moment you could you could feel it. And that's one of the things that I'll remember vividly when I look back on this Final Four.
Record, as far as television, about 10 million people watched this game. That's a record for this game. Women's basketball, women's sports has really jumped a lot, Rebecca, with eyeballs on them more. Before we get to the Angel Reese, Caitlin Clark thing at the end, what is making this jump now in women's sports?
I think it's a couple of things. I think, one, the play on the court is the best we've ever seen. It's 26 years since the WNBA started. All of these kids who played in the Final Four since the time that they could watch TV have been watching women's basketball played at the highest level, know what that looks like, and have worked hard towards it. So it's never been better. Whether it's at the WNBA or in college women's basketball, the play on the court has never been better. And I think just people are slowly starting to pay attention to that. And, when you tune into a game and there's a player like Caitlin Clark in the regular season hitting logo bomb threes, you're like, okay, I want to watch more of this. If you tune in and see Angel Reese and the excitement and energy she brings to the floor in a regular season game for LSU, I want to watch more of this. So Olivia Miles, and hopefully she gets back for your Fighting Irish, one of the most exciting
Fingers
players
crossed.
in the game. There's just a lot of really good, talented, and exciting women who are playing. And I think finally people are giving the attention it deserves. And time after time after time, the product is not disappointing. We've seen that in the WNBA as well. The WNBA finals this past year, some of the things that were going on, the way the Vegas Aces were playing, like, it just captures basketball fans' attention, just sports fans' attention. I think the sport is ready, the moment is ready, and fans are finally in a bigger way ready to appreciate it all.
So now, the part that unfortunately took the headline was the Angel Reese. And to show you my age, I was just doing our Sorry in Advance podcast with our family. And this whole hand thing is you can't see me. I'm like, what does you can't see me have to do with what the hell is going on with the court? And it was my son Mike who's saying, basically it means you can't guard me. I'm like, okay, someone say you can't. I mean. Can
I interrupt you for a second, Mike?
Yes.
So we're calling the regional championship. I'm out in Seattle, and it is Iowa playing Louisville. And it's the first time Caitlin does this.
Right,
and you know how it is. We roll out to a break with this, and I say on air, I don't know what that means. I had no idea what it meant. I didn't. And so then people are tweeting at me, it means, John Cena, you can't see me. And I said, I still don't understand what that means and what it has to do with basketball. So anyway, you and I are together.
Yeah. And then
I love the layers of confusion happening I don't even know what this is, and then other people being like, I don't know what this is either, but I'm mad. Like,
yeah, but I'm mad she did it, and so I guess just your my quick thought is you either like that stuff, hate that stuff, or you're indifferent. Would I want my kids to do that? Probably not, but I am certainly not going to make that the lead story at all. I'm overseeing youth, so I mean, it doesn't matter enough to me. You, Rebecca, have kids who you are coaching and who are playing, so you are, when you see something, I guess first, what did you think about the whole brouhaha, and then how would you approach that with your kids and coaching them?
Well, it wasn't a brouhaha in the moment. We called the game, we showed that replay, and that was that. We knew what she was doing because, we had called the game where Caitlin had done it. So there wasn't a brouhaha within the women's basketball world, until it got into social media. So, celebrating yourself is not my cup of tea. It's not what I did when I was a player. It's not what I encourage my kids to do. But I don't have a problem, certainly, with anybody doing it, and I never ever would assign anything towards the person because of what they did on the court. And we when we're at the Final Four, get to meet with these teams, get to meet with these players. And Angel Reese is a delight, and she's a smart, thoughtful person. When you're sitting in the meetings talking basketball and her willingness to include her team and talk about her team in an incredibly generous way. So the frustrating thing is when people then assign whatever they are going to assign to an athlete and a person because of some sort of celebration that they've done.
Yeah, Rebecca, this is like an existential question that I've talked to with my other podcast co-host, Kate Fagan, about too. With so many eyeballs on this game, it almost attracts like the worst aspects of sports media coverage from that we see a lot on like the men's side to the women's side, to have these like incendiary, reactionary like things where they don't know the player, they don't know her story, they don't know that she's felt snubbed by not being on awards list earlier this season, they don't know Caitlin Clark has been doing this celebration before and that she's been, you know, showing up 3-point signal every time she hits a three, that like this is her style of play too. And so it's like I wonder if there's almost like it was so popular that it was almost unavoidable that something really stupid, given the media landscape and social media and everything, like this would happen. I wonder if you have any thoughts at all about that.
Well, it's sometimes people outside of the sport like to hijack the conversation a little bit. And Mike will remember this, you know, for a number of years when UConn was winning championships, the first round of the tournament would come. They were in 1 seed and they would destroy the 16 seed. And the conversation, we'd come in on you know, the second day of the tournament, and the pervasive conversation is UConn bad for women's basketball. And I would get so frustrated because then we would have, you know, these pregame shows or whatever as in studio, and instead of me breaking down this player or that player, I then have to answer the stupid narrative, is UConn bad for women's basketball? And so I think that's what happened here a little bit too. And part of it is great, you know, like if we get Iowa playing against LSU next year, that would be amazing. This will have led to more interest in the game. And whether you like the celebration or don't like the celebration or how it happened, the personal nature of it is what is most offensive. And so if you're going to parachute into the sport and comment on how the women play or comment on the celebrations, whatever, that's fine. But the personal attacks are the part that's troublesome and are the part that you know, you would almost rather, all right, you can stay outside. We don't need you as a fan if this is what you're gonna bring to the table. Because yes, everybody who is at least partially aware of the sport knew exactly what that interaction was all about, whether you liked it or didn't like it. And I think one of the things that also was getting lost here is the player who it didn't bother was Caitlin Clark.
Yes.
Caitlin Clark said she didn't even see it. She was headed to her handshake line. She didn't care. So, you know, for all the people that are offended on behalf of Caitlin Clark didn't care. So you can choose, when you're playing pickup, to celebrate how you want. You can choose to have your kids celebrate how they want. But don't go attack a 20-year-old woman in a personal way because you don't like the way she celebrated it in one of the biggest moments of her life.
Right.
100% agree. Those people that do the personal attacks, I guess I just consider the source on some of them because it's absolutely ridiculous.
Right, and
Rebecca,
the people that tend to say like, "Oh, is UConn bad for women's sports?" are always, of course, they're the people that care the most about like gender equity and all of the things that all of the things that go into that.
That's what's fueling their commentary,
right.
is their deep concern for women's sports.
Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
Exactly.
And also the team they root for can't beat UConn. You know, the best way to stop UConn is to beat UConn, you know, and nobody could do it for a while. So, and as a Notre Dame grad, I had to live through that for years and years. So I feel good about it.
I know we should have made a bet this year.
No, we shouldn't have.
You guys beat us. You guys beat UConn this year.
Oh, in the regular season. You're right. You're right.
Yes.
And every time I get ballsy and make a bet, you're painting my face, UConn colors. So
Notre Dame's gonna be really good next year as long as Olivia's healthy, man. Watch out for them.
I hope so. But UConn also is going to be really good next year. So maybe they'll both be in the Final Four. We can do a bet.
All right, Jessica. Always great to have Rebecca on. I know the position that they were in calling the game, as being in the booth for a lot of years. You never really want to make it about what the refs are doing. Mm-hmm. You always want to keep it about the game, and this was such a highly visible game. But they had to step in a few times. That was my biggest take. Not the stuff at the end. I could not care at all about that. But it was the fact that LSU was shooting so well. But man, to have Angel Reese on the bench for the whole second quarter, to have your two top stars on Iowa, obviously including Caitlin Clark, on the bench with 3 fouls, a lot as well. And I know there were 37 foul calls. Now, there were 19 for one team and 18 for the other team, 21 free throws for one team, 20 for the other. So that part of it split evenly. But just to have stars on the bench and the quick whistles, I think that was a real kind of a tough mark for this game.
There was even a little bit of that in the Iowa-South Carolina Final Four matchup, too. I mean, really, I'm someone who also hates complaining about the refs because it's not like a thing that you can do anything about as a fan, and it doesn't change outcomes, so it's a little fruitless. But yeah, there's some really bad officiating in all college athletics, and unfortunately when it happens in a big game like that, it makes you feel a little disappointed and a little unsatisfied. But I mean, so that aside, it was such a fun game. It was so exciting to watch that for me, it didn't really overshadow anything. It certainly didn't like make it feel less fun to watch LSU celebrate afterwards. So I don't know. It was a great Final Four. So I enjoyed all of it.
I agree. I agree. Just to see South Carolina knocked off after the last 2 years, 40 straight wins going back to the tournament. And then that final where I was just hoping Iowa would, and I had no horse in the race. I just wanted to see a good game. But LSU started pulling away, kind of like UConn started pulling away from San Diego State. And you want to see a good game.
The difference, though, was that in the UConn-San Diego State game, there was not a lot of good shooting happening. Like, it was a more boring game, in my opinion.
LSU was just absolutely firing up darts. What Jasmine Carson was doing in the first half, and again, finishing off with the banker three was just was unbelievable. So that was awesome. It was great to talk to Rebecca Lobo. We're going to talk to former Penn State men's basketball coach who got his team to the second round where they lost to Texas in this tournament, and now new Notre Dame head coach Micah Shrewsberry is going to join us here in a bit. But let's do a quick note here on the Masters, Jess. That is starting this week. We're taping this before Wednesday in the par 3 contest, and then obviously the tournament. Right out of the gate here, it's Scotty Scheffler is at plus 700, Rory McIlroy plus 700. They're the two favorites for DraftKings Sportsbook right now. Then you have John Rahm at plus 900, Jordan Spieth at plus 1600. Tiger Woods is with 13 other players at plus 6,500. And again, now Tiger did pull this off a few years ago, which was miraculous. So I think you'll always wonder how well he's going to do, but I don't think he's going to win this. But obviously it's huge for the Masters if he makes it to Saturday and Sunday, though a lot of time the Masters don't need that boost, but you always love a boost from Tiger Woods. It just seems like the Scotty Schefflers and Rory McIlroys are just playing so well right now.
I know I'm going to take the best nap of my life listening to that broadcast on Saturday and Sunday, Mike. I'm already looking forward to them, trying to think of what I'm going to eat before it. It's going to be great.
I love watching they had the women's amateur going on as well. I was watching that. Then they have the kids doing the driving, chipping, and putting.
I hope we leave that in. Driving, shitting, putting competition.
We might as well leave it in. Why not? But drive, chip, and putt. I do like watching all of that.
All right, Mike, now we need to welcome on the newest member of the Notre Dame family, the new head men's basketball coach, Micah Shrewsberry. Thank you for joining us.
Oh, thank you guys for having me.
So before we get to the Notre Dame job, you were coaching Penn State last year. You got to the second round. You beat A&M, and then you lose to Texas. Talk about that experience from the players' side of it, getting into the tournament, and then what you thought going to the end with UConn taking out San Diego State.
Yeah, for us, it was, I was there 2 years, and it was quite a climb that's what we were hoping for, to have a chance to play in the NCAA tournament. We had some really good guys that we had brought together that really fit our system. And we had a little bumpy road to get there, but we found our way at the end of the season. Played great in the Big Ten tournament. Had a really, really precise game for us against Texas A&M where we played great. And then, fell to a Texas team who I thought was one of the better teams in the country. The one of the guys, Disu, if he doesn't get injured, I think they have a chance to make a Final Four. But they lost to a really good Miami team. So the tournament is it's always full of surprises. It's always a matter of who gets hot, who's playing well, And that's what you saw from all of those teams, Miami, Florida Atlantic, San Diego State, and then obviously UConn was playing at a really high level, and they deserved to win the national championship.
So we want to ask you the important questions first. So Coach Marcus Freeman has been on the podcast before. He has a candy dish in his office with a lot of different types of candy. He has chocolates. He has Starbursts. Will you have any such thing in your office at Notre Dame?
You know what? I probably will, but it'll be just for me. It won't be for anybody that's coming in. Sorry, players. You guys are gonna have to bring your own snacks in here. But Marcus Freeman is super fit. And that's probably why he has candy dish for everybody else. I'll have my own candy dish.
So what would be the go-to candy?
I'm a Reese's Pieces guy. Peanut M&Ms. There's actually in our little kitchen over here, there's some Starburst jelly beans, which
they're the best.
They are the best. Very addictive.
Yeah, the problem with them is when you get Reese's Pieces or the peanut butter M&Ms or, like you said, those Starbursts, is you can eat so many of them. It's like potato chips. You just keep slamming them, and then you're like, oh man, I ate way too much.
Yeah, no, that's definitely something you got to worry about. You got to think about. Then you're looking. It's like, all right, I got to refill this bowl because I ate every single piece of whatever it is that was in here.
So it's always interesting in looking at the where a coach has been in his career, and if you Wikipedia any coach, you see a number of stops along the way. And it's interesting. The other head coaching job you had was IU South Bend, yeah. right, South Bend, where Notre Dame is. So, what was from that experience to where you are now, and what led you back? What led you to Notre Dame?
Yeah, I talked about it in my press conference. We lived right around the corner from campus, my wife and I. So, I used to make the drive every day down Ironwood and ride by campus, and I could see it, and I'd drive by or pop around and just kind of dream of what would happen or what this would be like. And I was 30 years old at the time, so I figured I had a lot of time left in my coaching career, hopefully, to one day do this. But as long as you kind of keep your head down, you keep working towards your goals, good things happen. So, I had an unbelievable experience here in those 2 years. But, I ended up leaving because Brad Stevens got the job at Butler at the time as the head coach, and I went and joined his staff, and everything kind of took off from there. We went to the tournament 2 years in a row, and then the last 2 years we went to the national championship game. And, it kind of stinks that, as a bad reminder, that last night during the game they're talking about the lowest scoring halves in Final Four history. You just look up there and you see Butler, and it's like, it was great that we got there, and those guys, we have great memories, but we didn't play our best in that moment. But it was a part of life that helped propel me, so I could get an opportunity like this. I went from Butler to Purdue and worked with Coach Painter for a couple of years, and I went with Brad to the Boston Celtics, which was great for my career in learning. And then back to Purdue for a couple of years of, I guess, almost finishing school with Coach Painter again before I got the opportunity at Penn State. So there's been a lot that's happened since I was here last. I've grown a lot as a coach. My family's grown. We've added a lot more children since we've been here, but this is definitely a full circle moment to be here.
So you went from college to assistant at the pro level, back to college, kind of similar to Neil Ivey, who was an assistant with the Grizzlies before becoming the head coach for the Notre Dame women's team. So I interviewed her a few years back, and she said the biggest difference from pro to college is pro basketball is all ball. You don't have to worry about schoolwork. You don't have to worry about like extracurricular stuff that students have to do. So what are some of the things that have been the biggest difference for you going from the Celtics back to the college level? And how do you apply things you learned in the NBA back to like coaching your student athletes?
Yeah, I think what helped me was I was a college coach before. So I didn't have much of an adjustment going there and then coming back, right? Like the time constraints are obviously a little bit different, on the college campus when the guys that you have to work with, they have class throughout the day. They have studying, homework, tests, whatever, once they finish practice. So you have to balance their time way better as a coach and understand that, basketball is really important, but they also have a really tough course load to work on here. They have social life that they're trying to manage as well. So understanding that and getting that in order is really important. And then since I've come back, there's a lot of things that are different with the transfer portal, with NIL, with college basketball has really changed in the last few years. So just being able to adapt, I think the NBA has allowed or helped me adapt, right? Like you never know what's going to happen in those teams, in that program, right? There could be somebody on your team. My first year in Boston, we were trading guys at shoot around. So, a guy'd be there. We're like, hey, who's going to guard Kevin Durant? And it's like, well, we just traded him. So you guys change your game plan between shoot around and the game, and good luck tonight. So you got to think on your feet. You got to adjust on the fly. And I think that's helped with all the changes here in college basketball that's happening now.
You mentioned a couple of years at Penn State, and now you're at Notre Dame. How long did it take the Cell job from the AD Jack Swarbrick until you agreed to this?
Yeah, I got a chance to meet with Jack and Father John and my wife and I both. And when you just talk to them and you feel how genuine they are, you feel the passion that they have for Notre Dame. That's something special. It's something special. And obviously being an Indiana kid, I've always known about Notre Dame. I've had classmates that have gone here. And, I grew up a huge Notre Dame football fan. So I knew all about the place. But the opportunity to come here and lead this was there wasn't a lot of arm twisting that had to happen. I felt so I almost had to pinch myself when they said, we want you to be the next head coach here, because it really is a dream come true. And I know you could probably pull up any coach's press conference or interview or whatever, and everybody says it's a dream come true. But I'm an Indiana kid, and there's 3 major programs in this state, and I'm getting a chance to lead one of them. It doesn't get any better than that.
Is there another basketball program in the country that you think Notre Dame obviously has some things that they do differently than other schools when it comes to transferring and academics and everything like that? So is there another basketball program that you think you kind of look to as the model for Notre Dame basketball?
You know what? That's interesting. I think who we are and what we're going to be, you could look maybe in league, and this may be like there's some differences with everything, but like maybe in league, maybe it's a school like Virginia or a program like Virginia, like they're a value-based program. Who they bring in, I'm sure they have academic challenges as well, but kind of in the ACC as I look around it, that could be a team or a program that you kind of model. Now, we're obviously play different ways. We play different styles, but I think as a value-based organization and what Coach Bennett has been able to do there, I can see some similarities from school to school.
It's also interesting, when you talk about a football program, a basketball program, what's it more at a certain school. I think we all have to realize Notre Dame is a fencing school. with 12 national
100%.
championships. So
Yes.
that's the sport there right now. That's what you have to try and overtake. I'm wondering, and if you've moved into it yet, Mike Bray has been there for, I think, 52 years. Did he leave anything behind in his office that you found that you had to return to him?
I have not. I think they did a really good job of grabbing everything that he had. But I'm sure there's something somewhere that I'll find one day that he's probably tucked away somewhere. Like, hey, Coach, I knew you would get to this at some point in time. And some kind of note there. I've had a chance to talk to Coach, and he's the best. He's great. What he's done here, the success that he's had, how he's built it, his relationship with his guys, he's leaving a great legacy for me to follow in. But he's also leaving a great blueprint of how you can do it here, how you can have success here. So I'm going to definitely pick his brain and figure out some things and see if he can help me. But, yeah, maybe in February there's going to be some note under the couch that he's left for me like some kind of omen.
So you've lived in South Bend before, so you're familiar, but it's been a while. Do you have like a favorite restaurant you're excited to go back to, or favorite part of town that you're, feel like you've been missing?
Well, here's the crazy thing, and I'm as basic as possible. Like my personality is when I find what I like I'll go to the same restaurant every day and just order the same thing. But I get really excited about the simple things in life. So I went to the Final Four this past weekend, and I got back, and it was a little bit later when I landed, and I was going to grab some food as I was heading back to the hotel, and I just got really excited to see Steak and Shake.
That's a great answer.
I pulled right into the drive-through, and I was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna get this Frisco melt, and I'm gonna get myself a milkshake."
What kind of milkshake?
Chocolate, just simple chocolate.
Just plain chocolate? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, but those are the little things that I miss. There's no anything special or things like that. It's something like that. Now I will. I did as I'm driving through different areas. I saw Barnaby's the other day, and I was like, oh, yeah, Barnaby's. I'm still remembering some things that have come back. The one thing I was a little disappointed, and I don't even know if it was good. I just remember going there a few times, was Between the Buns is now closed. So
what?
It's just a different name. No, it's a different name.
What is it called?
Yeah, I forgot. I should know.
Mike.
My place is right next to it, but it's still there. It's just called something else. But I used to go there all the time. I'm with you. One thing I'd like to share with you, Coach, at some point we could do a backer burger and a beer over at the Linebacker. I can't believe it took Mike Bray 22 years to get to that place.
That was crazy.
Absolutely, and it was nuts when he was there. Let's ending at least from my side on this. Whenever I would call a game and talk to a coach, especially if it's a coach I hadn't done a game with before, I always like to ask them, and I'm sure you've answered this 100 times, what's your philosophy of a team? What are we going to get out of your teams?
Yeah, I am. There are I've I guess developed this reputation here in the last 2 years as an offensive coach. But at my heart and at my core, I'm a defensive guy. I'm a stickler for rules on that side and how we're going to guard and what we're going to do. And, our teams have played with incredible toughness and grit and fight. That's going to be a staple. That's going to be a staple of who we are, and how we play. Because I think it gives you a chance to win every single night. Whether the ball's going in or not, if you're guarding people, that's going to give you a chance. Offensively, it's tailored more around your guys, who you have. I'm being in the NBA has given me a chance to. There's not a system that I'm stuck in, right? I can be flexible and build something around our best players. So We play a 5-out style. We move the ball, like we share the ball. We'll shoot a bunch of threes, be a low turnover team. We were, for the longest time this year, we were number one in the country in fewest turnovers. And I think Notre Dame ended up taking it over late in the year and passing us. But, playing very, very fundamental basketball, having high IQ guys that can read the game, think the game. We play an NBA kind of system where we'll hunt some matchups. Like we play a lot of movement where we're cutting, we're playing off pick and rolls, we're doing things, but we'll also, hunt matchups and find guys that, can't guard, that, we're going to attack and force people to help and rotate, or we're just going to go score on that guy. So we're going to play a lot of different, styles offensively and try and be creative and base that around our best players. And hopefully that makes us a really tough team to guard and prepare for.
You were in the Big Ten for the last couple of years. You've coached at Butler, so you've coached at a lot of different colleges. But is there any one particular school in the ACC schedule that you're particularly excited to play against now as the head coach at Notre Dame?
I've actually never been. There's a lot of the schools in the ACC I've never been to. I've never been inside of or coached in a lot of these arenas. Like we played Clemson this past year in the ACC Big Ten Challenge. But throughout my time, even at Purdue, we were probably home twice and on the road once during those times there. So I've been to North Carolina. Never coached a game, but I've been inside. I've never been to Duke. Never walked inside the place. So
wow,
that would be cool. Like to go in there
and
bring our team in there, but really all of them. It's just going to be fun. It's just going to be fun to challenge yourself and go against good coaches and take our team in there. I'm probably pretty sure that every school feels like they hate us, and man, we hate Notre Dame. Like we can't wait to beat them. So I love that part of it.
If you know that already, you'll fit in great.
I love being the hated. I love being the underdog. So I'm going to wear this ND around with pride as we're walking into some of these arenas.
Well, if you love that part of it, be prepared for a lot of love because there's a lot of hate to Notre Dame that people are going to get after you for. Coach, we really look forward to the start of your tenure at Notre Dame. We look forward to the Reese's Pieces in your office and maybe a burger and a beer somewhere as well. Yeah. But congrats on the job there, kind of coming home a bit to South Bend, and we do appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you guys so much.
Wow, Mike, 2 guests in one episode. That was a lot of fun. Thank you to Rebecca Lobo and Coach Micah Shrewsberry for coming on this episode of Golic and Smetty. And we'll be back next week. Hopefully we can talk about Outer Banks because I'm almost done with season 3.
Oh, you are? I can't wait. Okay, I leave you with this, Jess. Whatever this means.
He's doing the hand thing for people listening.